What if some of the celebrities you've watched for years were living stories the public never fully understood? Behind the red carpets and flashing cameras, many stars faced identity struggles, industry pressure, and life-changing choices far from the spotlight. Fans often think they know everything about their favorite icons, but the reality is far more complex. Today, we're uncovering the untold stories, defining moments, and personal courage behind transgender celebrities you probably never knew about. Hunter Schafer grew up in North Carolina, where expectations about gender were often narrow and quietly enforced. From a young age, she understood that navigating the world sometimes required patience and awareness rather than open confrontation. Art became her refuge. Drawing and visual storytelling allowed her to express feelings and questions about identity that were difficult to explain in words. That creative instinct would later shape both her artistic voice and the way she approached public life. Before becoming widely known as an actress, Schafer first gained recognition in the fashion world. Her distinctive look and thoughtful perspective quickly caught the attention of major designers, leading to work with global fashion houses and international campaigns. Yet her public presence was never limited to modeling. As a teenager, she was already involved in activism. Schafer became one of the plaintiffs challenging North Carolina's controversial House Bill 2, legislation widely criticized for restricting the rights of transgender people. The experience placed her unexpectedly at the center of a national conversation about identity and civil rights. Her breakthrough came when she was cast as Jules Vaughn in HBO's series Euphoria. Schafer's performance resonated with audiences because it avoided stereotypes. Jules was portrayed as a complicated young person navigating love, confusion, vulnerability, and self-discovery. As her career expanded, Schafer moved beyond acting alone. She co-wrote episodes of Euphoria and began developing new creative projects. Today, she is recognized not only as a model and actress, but as a powerful artistic voice, helping shape modern conversations about identity and representation. Jessica Alves entered public life as a spectacle long before she was fully recognized as a person. Born in Brazil and later becoming widely known in the United Kingdom, she first attracted global attention through reality television and tabloid headlines that focused heavily on her appearance. For years, the media framed her body as a project, something to be redesigned, perfected, and displayed. Cosmetic procedures promised acceptance, control, and belonging. Instead, they created a cycle in which public fascination encouraged increasingly dramatic transformations. The attention grew, but genuine understanding often remained distant. Behind the headlines, Alves was struggling with deeper questions about identity and authenticity. The pressure to maintain a public image that never truly reflected who she felt she was became increasingly difficult. Over time, serious health complications from multiple surgeries forced her to reevaluate the life she had been living. In 2020, Alves publicly came out as a transgender woman. She explained that many of the changes she had made in the past were attempts to fit into a version of masculinity that never felt natural to her. Her announcement reframed years of public curiosity, offering context that had long been missing from the conversation. Since then, Alves has spoken openly about her transition as a process of alignment rather than reinvention. Today, she continues working in media and public appearances while advocating for authenticity, self-acceptance, and mental well-being, reminding audiences that behind every viral headline is a real person searching for truth. Candy Darling was born James Lawrence Slattery in New York City during a time when public understanding of gender identity was extremely limited. From an early age, she felt a deep awareness of who she was, even if the world around her had little language for it. She believed that elegance and glamour could create a kind of protection, and she modeled herself after the classic Hollywood actresses she admired. In the 1960s, Candy became part of Andy Warhol's creative circle known as The Factory, a community of artists and performers pushing cultural boundaries. There, she appeared in several underground films, including Flesh and Women in Revolt. While many in that scene embraced rebellion and shock value, Candy pursued something different. She wanted recognition as a legitimate actress, someone who could stand alongside the glamorous stars she idolized. Despite her growing visibility in avant-garde cinema, mainstream Hollywood remained distant. Candy continued to imagine a future where she could cross that boundary and be accepted simply as an actress. Tragically, that future was cut short when she was diagnosed with lymphoma in the early 1970s. As her health declined, public attention around her identity only intensified. Candy Darling passed away in 1974 at just 29 years old. In the decades since, her influence has grown. Artists, filmmakers, and LGBTQ cultural historians now recognize her as a pioneering figure whose beauty, ambition, and vulnerability helped shape the conversation around transgender visibility in modern culture. Christine Jorgensen was born in New York City at a time when gender diversity had little public language and even less understanding. From early adulthood, she felt a quiet but persistent awareness that the expectations placed on her did not reflect who she truly was. Rather than confronting society publicly, she chose a more personal path. In the early 1950s, Jorgensen traveled to Denmark to undergo gender-affirming medical treatment, hoping that when she returned to the United States, she could simply live her life privately and authentically. For a brief moment, that hope seemed possible. However, news of her transition quickly reached American newspapers, and her story exploded into international headlines. What Jorgensen had intended to be a personal journey suddenly became a national spectacle. Many media outlets framed the story as curiosity or novelty, rather than focusing on the human experience behind it. Despite the intense attention, she handled interviews with calm dignity, explaining that her transition was a deeply personal matter rather than something sensational. The scrutiny grew even stronger in 1959 when she became engaged and applied for a marriage license in New York. The application was denied because her birth certificate listed her as male, turning the situation into another widely discussed public controversy. The pressure eventually ended the relationship. Instead of withdrawing, Jorgensen continued speaking publicly, performing in lectures and stage appearances across the country. Through patience and resilience, she helped educate audiences and gradually expand public understanding, becoming one of the earliest transgender figures to influence American cultural awareness. Carmen Carrera first stepped into the public eye through the reality competition series RuPaul's Drag Race, a show built around bold performance, exaggerated personas, and unforgettable characters. Audiences were immediately drawn to her striking presence, confidence, and polished look. On screen, she appeared glamorous and self-assured, but much of her deeper personal journey remained hidden behind the spectacle of entertainment. The platform gave her visibility, yet it also introduced her to the world through the narrow lens of drag performance, rather than as a fully understood person. As her popularity grew, Carrera began exploring opportunities in modeling, television, and fashion. However, she soon realized that the industry often celebrated the image it had created while struggling to accept the person she truly was. Media coverage frequently continued to describe her primarily as a drag performer, even as she openly embraced her identity as a transgender woman. When Carrera publicly transitioned, she asked to be recognized simply as a woman, rather than as a novelty. The response from media outlets and audiences was mixed. While many people expressed support, others continued to treat her identity as a curiosity rather than a reality. A controversial television interview in 2012 highlighted how easily personal dignity could be sacrificed for entertainment. Instead of retreating, Carrera used the moment to advocate for respect and understanding. Over the years, she continued building a modeling career and working with fashion brands, while also mentoring younger LGBTQ individuals. Today, Carmen Carrera remains a visible voice for authenticity, reminding others that identity does not require permission to be valid. Caroline Cossey was born in England at a time when being different could easily place someone in danger. From an early age, she understood that visibility was complicated. It could offer opportunity, but it could also invite judgment, misunderstanding, and hostility. Growing up with that awareness shaped the way she moved through the world. Modeling eventually became a path forward. It offered her a rare space where she could be recognized for her beauty, professionalism, and confidence, rather than constantly questioned about her identity. Under the name Caroline Cossey, she began building a promising career in fashion and television during the late 1970s and early 1980s. Her striking presence and elegant style quickly drew attention in the modeling world. One of the most notable moments of her early career came when she appeared briefly in the 1981 James Bond film, For Your Eyes Only. The role was small, but its meaning was significant. For a brief moment, Cossey existed in mainstream entertainment simply as another woman on screen. That fragile sense of stability shattered when the British tabloid News of the World publicly revealed her transgender history without her consent. The story was framed as scandal rather than a violation of privacy. Almost overnight, the life she had carefully built began to collapse. Modeling contracts were canceled, opportunities vanished, and Cossey found herself facing intense public scrutiny. Instead of disappearing permanently, she eventually chose to reclaim control of her story. Cossey later wrote memoirs about her experiences and began speaking openly about dignity, privacy, and the challenges transgender people faced in public life. Over the years, she became an important voice advocating for respect and understanding. Today, Caroline Cossey is remembered not only for her modeling career, but also for her courage in challenging how media treated transgender people during a time when acceptance was far more limited. Barbara Stanwyck was born Ruby Stevens in Brooklyn, New York, into deep poverty. Orphaned at a young age, she grew up understanding that survival often depended on resilience and self-discipline. Acting became more than a profession for her. It was a path toward stability, independence, and control over a life that had begun with hardship. During the 1930s and 1940s, Stanwyck rose to become one of Hollywood's most respected actresses. She built a reputation for portraying women who were intelligent, strong, and emotionally complex. Audiences admired the depth she brought to her roles, yet the woman behind those performances remained intensely private. In the tightly controlled studio era, publicity helped create stars, but personal truth could easily destroy a career. Rumors circulated for years about Stanwyck's personal relationships and emotional life, including speculation about close bonds with women. She never confirmed or denied the stories. At that time in Hollywood, silence often served as protection. Stanwyck focused instead on her work, allowing her performances to speak louder than any gossip. Her role in the 1962 film Walk on the Wild Side revived curiosity about her personal life, as the character she portrayed was widely understood as coded lesbian representation. Stanwyck continued acting well beyond the golden age of Hollywood, successfully transitioning into television later in her career. When she passed away in 1990, she left behind a legacy defined by strength, professionalism, and the quiet determination to guard her privacy. Behind the headlines, red carpets, and flashing cameras, these stories remind us that fame rarely reveals the whole truth. Each of these individuals faced pressure, misunderstanding, and moments when simply living honestly required extraordinary courage. Their journeys are not only about identity, but about dignity, resilience, and the right to define their own lives. Stories like these continue to shape how the world understands visibility and acceptance today. If any of these stories surprised you, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and perspectives. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to like it, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more untold stories you won't want to miss.